How's it going today, everybody? Eddie Kernan for Rexylab. This is an evaluation of a really cool 1989 5-string fretless Guild pilot bass made in the United States. I managed to find this thing at my local guitar center, and I don't go into my local guitar center very often, but they're great for used gear because 9 times out of 10 they have no idea what they have. Unfortunately, 10 times out of 10, there's stuff that's pretty wrong with it. Such is the case with this particular bass right here. This was sent from a different guitar center to the one here in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is the worst guitar center I've ever been to. The guy got the thing, and there were issues with it to where he was like, I don't want this. He gave it right back. They put it on the floor. I walked in, saw it, and went, hey, I'll take a chance on this. And he walked over and told me, I wouldn't do that, buddy. So let's see if he was right or if he was a little too quick to let it go. One thing that you'll notice right away is that little piece of paper underneath the E string. And that's because this thing rattles. I did that little trick where you wedge a piece of paper underneath the string, and it took care of the problem. But if you look at the way this thing is strung, especially that G string right there, this was done by somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing. There's no consistency to these wraps whatsoever. Another thing is that this bass has a hip shot detuner on the low B string, which is really weird. The guy was trying to tell me that that was a factory option, but because I'm a hip shot dealer, I just called up Hip Shot and said, did you guys ever do this on a Guild 5-string fretless? And they were like, no. Whoever owned this bass before, they completely mutilated this detuner, and it won't work at all because they jacked this screw in here and just ran it right past where it's supposed to sit. That is just delightful. Interesting. So this looks like a bone nut. It might be a little too low. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. These EMG pickups look like they've seen a fair amount of play, and obviously whoever had this thing used round wounds. Flat wounds wouldn't quite mar it up so bad. And I was fortunate enough to take this into my preferred shop in Lafayette, C&M Music, and they'd just gotten their PLEK machines. So they were like, hey, you want us to PLEK it and see if it's like really good? And I was like, absolutely. So they did, and this neck is actually fantastic. It's really straight. One thing that is an absolute bummer though is that I'm missing the truss rod cover here, and this looks incredibly proprietary, like it'll be very hard to find. But I can tell you this, I am going to be putting Diodario chromes on it because I want it to be flat wounds. I want to get a look at this bridge. This looks like a really nice bridge. There's not a lot of information on these basses, and to be completely honest, I remember back in 1989 when these things came out. I never saw a 5-string or a fretless one, but I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, that's a really cool bass that I'll never have because I'll never be able to afford it. And here we are. So yeah, I'm going to dig into this thing. But there's something that I want to see first, these strap buttons, because I'm fairly certain that they are Jim Dunlop locking strap buttons with screws that are too big. So it is completely and totally making the strap lock part of it not accessible at all. Yep. These are totally Jim Dunlop strap lock buttons that somebody put a screw in that was way too big, and so they just had to use them like regular old strap buttons. When you combine that with a hip shot on the B string, You know, it's like, wow, what rocket scientist owned this thing back in the past? Now watch, it's gonna be somebody's gonna see this video, some ridiculously famous, amazing bass player's gonna see this video and go, that's my bass that was stolen all those years ago. Why is this guy calling me an idiot? So this bridge says Guild. Got these little spinny things. This low B one's kind of gunked up. These saddles aren't exactly even. They're not bad though. And it's got a barrel jack. I'm not a fan of the barrel jack, but that's okay. That doesn't look like the most factory thing to me I've ever seen though. It's a little suspect. See, but this right here, this all looks factory. This looks very factory. I am very curious though now to see the value of these pots. 8.8. Okay, see, now that makes more sense. So like these should be 20K pots. Uh-oh. You know what though? I can drive it out the bottom, so it's not going to be a total loss like Mike and Mike's guitar bar. Thanks, Mike and Mike's guitar bar. Alright, so this entire thing is pretty gross and gummed up and gunked up and funky monkey and whatnot. So I think that these parts are going to need to take a little naphtha bath. I'll take this apart, clean it all up, and then put it back together. I've got the pickups pulled, and both of them say the exact same thing. LJ5 HIB. See that? LJ5 means Long Jazz 5, or you know, the one that's usually in the bridge, which is weird, but yeah, no, it fits, and obviously it's factory. Now, here's the thing that I really find odd. When I do my little polarity tester here, they're both the same polarity. So, weird, right? But anyway, pull these things out and just clean all the schmutz off of there. That is a pretty big deal. I got something I'm going to do with these screws for the bridge. This is something that is a good idea to do, oh, I don't know, about every 20-30 years. Get yourself some beeswax and you just kind of get her on in there. Now, before I hit the body with naphtha and get it all cleaned up, let's drive these screws down there and they'll have a nice little coating of beeswax, and they'll line the wood with beeswax and everything, and that's already going in a lot nicer than it came out. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, why would you do this? Here's why. If you've ever broken a screw off inside the wood and had to dig it out, you will know exactly why I'm doing this. This is also always a good idea. A lot of times what people will use is petroleum jelly up there, but I don't have any petroleum jelly, and the beeswax works just fine. And this right here will keep this thing from freezing up on you. This bass in general is exceptionally clean. I have this thing right here mostly put back together after giving it a nice little naphtha soak and then lubing it up. I want to show you guys just exactly how to do this because it's really, really handy. So this is what I did with all of these little screws right here. We're going to wind up doing it with the big screw. And what this is going to do is wind up putting a nice film of oil on here. So got that in just a little bit. I take this tri-flow and down the hole. And just a little, it doesn't take much. Now we're just going to run this thing up And what this is going to do, so that naphtha knocked off like the bulk of the crap. But now what this is doing is it's putting a nice little film of oil into the threads of the screw. All right, I also put little drops on all these rollers. There were a few of them that didn't want to move anymore. Get in here with this deoxit. Well, heck, this looks pretty nice, really. I mean, once again, the holy crap, man, 1989. Seriously. So here's the deal. Nobody needs to watch me string this thing up and intonate it. So I'm going to do that. If the nut needs to be built back up with the baking soda and super glue trick, then I'll come back and show you guys doing that. But if not, the next place you'll see me will be out in the room, plugging it into one of the big rigs and seeing how she sounds. Well, every now and then, not only do you get lucky, just like I got lucky finding this thing, but you get extra lucky. And I got extra lucky because when I strung this thing up properly and gave it a proper setup, well, guess what? That like really horrible rattle in the E string, it's just gone. So there was never anything wrong with this bass. What was wrong was that it was in the clutches of Guitar Center. I'm really enjoying playing this thing. I mean, it's got a really weird body. I mean, it's like some kind of jazz bass that Salvador Dali got his hands on. You know, I don't really know how else to put it. And it's both comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. A little head heavy, but that's okay. It sounds nice, especially with these flat wound strings. Check it out. I wanted to do something fun with this thing, and so what I'm going to do is a little bass duet with myself, courtesy of a loop pedal and this Fernandez 8-string bass.
Okay, so I'm just going to improv over that little 8-string line a la Mark Egan, and we'll have some fun and see what happens. So that's it for now, and until next time, this has been Eddie Kernan for Rexylab, saving things from the Walmart of guitars, one forgotten classic at a time.